Don't blame Peter Swales. He's done nothing wrong. And neither have I for that matter. I've not broken any contract, I've simply honoured it. And I can tell you this, I would not have left Main Road for any other club. I spent almost a year with City and enjoyed working 24 hours a day on their behalf. And I'd like to think I've left them in a far healthier position than the one which I found them in last December. It's quite simple. Manchester City was a love affair, but Everton, well, that's a marriage. Hello and welcome to Maybe in Another Generation. Our guest this week is Jack Mitchell, who's most famously known for being the drummer in Johnny Marr's band for the last 14 years. Prior to that, Jack was in the band Haven, in addition to spells with Tail Gunner alongside the producer of Definitely Maybe, Mark Coyle, and the band Bad Lieutenant alongside indie royalty Bernard Sumner and Alex James. But more importantly, Jack is a lifelong Manchester City fan and is a renowned collector of match-worn Manchester City memorabilia. Jack Mitchell, welcome. Thank you very much for joining the podcast. Are you good?
Okay. Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you. Yeah, all right.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for agreeing to be on this. I suppose the first question that we start off with every guest is, why are you a Manchester City fan? How did it all begin?
That's a very good question. My dad just decided that we were going to be Blues. This is in about 1988. Because my dad was he was born down south, but then he was brought up in Yorkshire, in Scarborough.
Right, okay.
There was no actual ties to, what the ties was that we lived in Manchester, but there was no kind of family connection, for him or anything. And it was just one day he just said, right, should we go to Main Road to watch Man City?
Brilliant.
That's what we did. So
that's fantastic. So he didn't ever say Old Trafford.
No, and all my friends were all Reds at school. I remember it very clear in the 80s. They're all wearing the shirts. I don't think there was any City fans when I was at primary school. So I think maybe that's why my dad did it. It was it was almost like a rebellion almost to say, well, no, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to be a Blue. So.
Oh, thank God for that! Brilliant. And so you say, what was that? Was that 88? Did you say? Yeah. Was that your first game? What?
Yeah, my first.
Do you remember your first game?
I do. It was against Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup, February of '88. So that was my first game. But I remember being a bit too young to appreciate football, and I remember I think I was shouting penalty to everything. So even when the ball was in the centre circle, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. How old were you then? 88?
I was 7. Born in 81, so yeah.
Right, okay. Good stuff. So you're going the best part of 40 years, which is amazing. Yeah. So of all the trophy-laden seasons of the last few years, you've taken the decision to choose a season from around 35 years ago. You've chosen the 1991 season. Yeah. Dying to ask, why this one?
Well, do you know what? It was the first season that I really remember, and I remember getting really excited about the games. It's when my dad started to take me a lot more. So we had that first game in '88, and then a couple of games in '89, '90, but then 1991. That's when we got a season ticket. So I remember that's when things became kind of real for me, and then after the season, my mum took me to Woolworths in Stockport, and she bought me the end of season review, on video. And I remember just being so excited and just watching that the whole of the summer holidays.
Brilliant. So that was your first season ticket, 1991. Yeah. Brilliant. So you're funny. We've got a load of guests lined up for this, and the sheer amount of people who've avoided any season related to trophies. Typical City fans. They've all gone to seasons that have either been a disaster or nothing happened. So, but this is pretty memorable for me as well, because this is when I started going in my peak. Right. This is one of my favourite ever City teams under Peter Reid. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. But no spoilers, because it didn't start off with Peter Reid. So take us back to prior to that season. So prior to that 1991 season, how do we find the team? How do we find the club? And what was the mood amongst the players and the fans?
Well, I think it was we managed to stay up in the 89-90 season, we managed, I think we finished 14th in the end. So we started off 89-90 with Mel Machin, and then he got sacked about halfway through. And then we got Howard Kendall, which I remember it was a big deal. You know, he was a big name manager. And I remember feeling really excited by that. So the start of the 90 season, for me, it was full of optimism, you know. And I remember feeling really excited by it. A couple of big name players that came in as well, so you know, which were exciting.
And when you think about it, so that was just on the back of Italia 90. So
Yeah.
I think everybody was banging into the. I mean, obviously there's people like you and myself who've been going anyway and had already formed a love of City. But football just seemed to turn into colour that summer, and it was really exciting. And as you say, we brought a couple of new players. Can you remember what got you most excited, or who got you most excited?
Well, the main one for me was probably Tony Coton, because I used to, when I played football at that time, I'd always be a goalkeeper, and I think So when Tony Coton signed, I remember really, kind of really getting into goalkeeping, and he was just a kind of a no nonsense kind of character, but he was also an amazing guy. I don't think to this day I've seen a better shot stopper. I mean, obviously we've got Donnarumma now, mate, so he's pretty special. But Coton, some of the saves he made, and also it was £1 million. I remember thinking, oh my God, he signed a player for £1 million. It's kind of a big deal.
Serious business. Mr. Swales is getting his money in his pocket.
That's right.
Amazing. Yeah. So we signed him, and anyone else come in of note that season that really caught your attention?
Well, we signed Colin Hendry at the back end of the season before, so he was a big, again, another
amazing
kind of quality player. And then we brought in a few Everton old boys. I think we got Neil Poynton, I think, came in. But the other way, we lost Hinchcliffe, didn't we? And we lost Bishop and Morley.
I was gutted when Ian Bishop went. I was so, honestly, because he was amazing for us at the start of that 89 season, and he came back to be amazing for us under Joe Royle. But I was gutted because he was such a silky player.
Yeah, that's a bad move, that, I think, really, because he would have really fit into that team nicely. We had Clive Allen as well, which was a Mel Machin signing, and he didn't get. I can't remember if he fell out with Kendall or Reed. I'm not sure, but again, he's someone that should have played more for us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I remember the feeling at the time. I mean, we'll come to Howard Kendall in a bit in terms of when we get to sort of late autumn and the news hits us. But I remember at the time when we started signing these Everton players. At the time, I was thinking, well, it might be a necessity to stay up, but then it became a bit of a thing, and also it was at the expense of players that we loved. Ian Hinchcliffe was one of ours, wasn't it? I was gutted to see him go. Obviously, I'm not a massive fan of his now.
No.
I was gutted to see him go, and I was gutted to see Bishop go. And eventually, I think we ended up saying goodbye to Redmond because of all of that as well. Eventually, so
that's right.
From memory, what was the fans' perspective of signing all these ex-Everton lads? Was it just a case of needs must?
No, I think like you. I think it's almost like a cliche that a manager that's come from an old club is then signing players from that club. It was always
they can trust. Yeah.
I wasn't that excited about them. I don't think.
No.
Really.
And then, so obviously we've signed some of the ex-Everton players. We've obviously put Mr. Swales has finally put his hand in his pocket and signed a quality keeper. Again, I was happy with Dibble, but ultimately towards the end of that promotion season, 89, he kept getting injured. We were relying on Paul Cooper a lot. He was about 600 at the time. So we did go out and sign the very best, in fairness, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're going regularly at the time. Where was your season ticket in the ground?
It was in the main stand.
Was it? Right, posh. Right.
Yeah. I remember. Well, I think my dad probably wanted to, try and keep you out of the riffraff. Maybe,
You mean people like me in the kitbacks or the Platt Lane?
Yeah. Well, there's no way. I never got. I never actually got to stand in the kitbacks. I never.
Did you not?
I never. No.
Right.
Before
94.
I was always in the main stand, and then when we got a season ticket later, it was in the new kitbacks with the seats.
Ah, right. You mean that new stand that was pretty awful? Yeah, absolutely. So you started going regular at the time. I take it this was before away games. You were probably a little bit too young for away games at this stage. It was just more home games.
Yeah, I didn't do away games till I went to Leeds. I think it's the 95-96 season, or maybe the season before. You know where we went? I think we won 1-0. Jerry Creaney.
Oh, in the fog.
The winner. Yeah.
In the fog. Yeah.
That's the first away game.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's good stuff. So back to this season then.
Yeah.
What your standouts for you? How did we start the season? So let's have a look at the start of the season. How did we start it? What are the standouts for you?
Well, we went to Spurs. Actually, we played really well, but we got beat. We got beat 3-1.
Yeah.
We went on a bit of a run then, I think, and we started to play well. It was all very promising, and I remember, I think especially at Main Road, then it was a really kind of exciting place to go. You got the 157 bus from Cheadle, which then took us up to kind of Rusholme, and then we'd walk in, and it's completely changed now, but that was, and then we'd come out and we'd have a curry afterwards. It was absolutely fantastic.
Just perfect, absolutely perfect. So back to that start of that season, we'd gone to Spurs. Post Italia 90, they had Gaza, they had Lineker. I remember that game really well, and they were all over us, although we scored an absolute beauty. And I think that cross from White and the Quinn header, I think that was a sign of things to come between those two, because they struck up a great partnership.
Yeah, they did. And actually, we had a goal disallowed as well for a push on the keeper, which was a bit soft. So it could have been 2-1 or 2-0 at some point, 2-1. Yeah, but we lost that. But then I think after that, we had a couple of home games. Yeah. We went on a good run. We started to look good, but the one game I really remember, unfortunately from that start, was in October against United. The game whenever I watch the highlights, I always turn it off at 3-1, and then I just pretend that we won.
Absolutely brilliant. For those younger listeners, then, do you want to tell everybody what happened and how well it was going at the start?
So we were basically 3-1 up against United. Hendry scored a brilliant goal to make it 3, 1-2 with Quinn, and then there was 12 minutes left, and Reid brought himself off. He brought on Ian Brightwell, I think, and I think one of the first things Brightwell did, unfortunately, was give the ball away to Brian McClare, and then he ran off and scored, made it 3-2.
And we knew what was happening then, didn't we? We knew what was going to happen.
It was, and it's unfortunately, ended 3-3.
Unbelievable. And that was pretty painful, because I remember that game and we played so well. We absolutely battered them. Everyone at 3-1 was thinking, this could be another 5-1, this.
Yeah, that's right.
This could absolutely be another 5-1. And then, but before that, I think what one of the games in that run, because you were right, we're dead hard to beat under Howard Kendall and Peter Reid. Dead hard to beat. Early on in that season was Villa at home, the night match.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, is that the one where Lake? That's when Lake got injury, and then when Lake got injured, it's quite sad really, because that was the start of that's the start of his issues really.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Lake was absolutely, because he just missed out on going to the World Cup, hadn't he? He'd started to break into the England squad, and he was a phenomenal talent. He was always a midfielder, quite an attacking midfielder. And then Howard Kendall just came to him and said, "You're my captain, you're playing centre-half," and that was against Spurs.
That's right.
And he looked just as good at centre-half again. Yeah. In your eyes, where does he rank in terms of our best players pre-takeover?
Well, he's one of the best. I think that in the season before, when we got beat by Arsenal 4-0, he was actually man of the match that day.
Yeah.
So that shows you, to get beat 4-0, be on the losing side, but still be the best player on the pitch, and against Arsenal, that shows you how good he was.
Yeah, he was phenomenal for me. He was definitely would be in my first 11 pre-takeover. Yeah. He was absolutely just where to put him, because you could literally play him anywhere. Yeah. And that's the thing about this generation of City fans, probably haven't got a clue as to how good he was. He was absolutely phenomenal. And the biggest compliment you could pay him at his peak, he'd be definitely in our squad and probably in our first 11. Especially this first 11 right now. So we've started the season. We had a obviously dodgy first game. We've got stuck into the season. We're dead hard to beat. Didn't lose that many. And then early November, the bombshell. So I remember it dead well. I got in from work, as I used to do back in the day. Young lad, I was 18. Got in, put teletext on.
Yeah, that's right. That's the only way you can find things.
3:02. Kendall quit City, and I was absolutely Devastated. Tell me about your recollection of that and his reasons and just the general shambles around letting him go.
Yeah, well, it was the same thing for me. I remember it feeling like it was, kind of a monumental decision. Not just that season, but I remember thinking this is going to have an impact into the next few years. And I think that was the case, unfortunately. I think things kind of I might be, wrong here, but for me, that's when it felt like things started to change a bit. When we let him go, we shouldn't have let him go. The fact he let us go, so obviously I felt a bit pissed off with him. I was just upset and gutted because things were going so well. And
without a doubt,
it was just a real. And then you're back to square one. Then, well, who's going to take over?
Yeah, I mean, he made such a difference because Machin was completely out of his depth.
Yeah,
he'd obviously done well in getting us up. I loved that season, that promotion season, but we looked completely out of our depth when we went back into the top flight. And then to get him was a real coup, an absolute coup. But quite why our learned chairman decided to put a clause in Kendall's contract that said you can just leave if you want. There wasn't you can leave if England come in for you, or you can leave if whoever comes in for you, or you can leave if someone pays us £1 million for your compensation. There was actual clause that said, well, actually, yeah. So Everton rang us and said,
I didn't realise that.
Yeah. Everton rang.
Clause.
No, Everton rang. Yeah, the clause was I can leave when I want. That was a clause. So Philip Carter of Everton rang Peter Swales and said, we want permission to speak to Kendall. And he went, absolutely not. Howard's told me he'd only leave if it was for England. And he went, well, I think you'll find his clause in his contract that we can speak to him. And obviously Kendall had already lined it up and he was gone.
Yeah.
So vintage Swales. And then the immortal quote, which was, Manchester City was a love affair, Everton are the marriage. I have no idea whatever brought it. I mean, that is just a shocking comment. So what was your thoughts on when he left? Were you right, we need to just get Reedy in? Were you, let's go for someone, let's go for a big name?
I was hoping to, because we'd got Kendall, I wanted to get, try and get another big name in, really. That was my worry, because I thought, obviously, I knew Peter Reid was a great, player, but I wasn't sure whether he could step up and be a manager. So, for me, it would have been nice to get a big name. I remember, I think Terry Venables' name was, kind of bandied around, and a few other managers like that.
Imagine Terry Venables and Peter Swales was incredible. So that was the bombshell. Yeah, that was a bombshell. And no season at City can pass without some form of disappointment prior to the takeover. So for people who aren't watching this on YouTube and people who are just listening on this podcast, they won't be able to see what's behind you, which is, and as I said in my intro, you are an avid collector of match-worn City tops and City gear shorts, any paraphernalia you can get your hands on. So do you just want to describe the kits that you've got behind you?
So the ones I've got, so there's a goalkeeper shirt there, so they're all from the 90-91 season, apart from the yellow shirt. So the yellow is the 89-90, which you wore against Arsenal.
The mystical yellow shirt that nobody can get their hands on. You've got one. So tell us a bit about that first. So whose is it? How did you get it?
So that was a number 12. So that was worn by Neil McNabb on the bench that day. So he never actually got out on the pitch in it, but so that's number 12. I got that from a collector called Andy, who now lives in the States, and he was just selling his bits, and luckily we kept in touch, and we came to a deal to get it, which is great, because there was only that one set produced.
What's that? Right, okay.
And then they were given to a Sunday league side. So Eddie Pye, the vice chairman, he had like a metal company. Freddie Pye. He had a metal company or something, or a metal scrap business. So their Sunday league side, he gave the shirts to them, and then they were worn in this, Sunday league. And so the players, they took some of them, and then they've appeared over the years. And then that is a 1991 home shirt. That's a number 10, the blue one. That's a 1991. And then this white one here, this was basically
a thing of beauty. It is a thing of absolute beauty. And we'll talk about our best ever game in that kit shortly.
Yeah. Well, that's the 1991 season. So that's number 5, which won by Hendry, and Adrian Heath, believe it or not, that one. So
wow,
but,
that is beauty.
then,
Now, again, how did you do that? Was that just another collector?
Yeah, that's collected. It was that was getting rid of his shirts basically. So he rang up. We just came to a deal. And then the maroon is that's the 1992 shirt. That's the number 7. So that's David White wore that one.
Wow. And did you get it directly from him, or again was that another collector?
No, that was a collector. Usually, once you start getting in with people, there's only it's like a handful of collectors, and then you just kind of get to
community.
Know them and you know when they're going to sell stuff, and if I sell stuff, they come they come to me. So yeah, but I'm lucky that the white shirt is basically one of the reasons why I kind of loved that season, because I remember watching us in that shirt thinking, wow, it was one of those shirts that you just always wanted to have, and you'd never think you'd own it one day. But we did do a version of it in the club shop, but it was long sleeved, weirdly.
Really? I don't ever remember that being on sale, but I remember the one, the next white one, which was from the following season with the stripes on the sleeve. Yeah. Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. So that one was never available in short sleeve. I don't know why we did it. We probably Umbro gave us a load of long sleeve ones, and they just wanted to sell them off.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and then over your shoulder is a guy that we talked about before, Tony Coton.
Yeah. So this is Tony Coton. So these are very, very hard to get hold of, because obviously keeper shirts. There's probably maybe 1 or 2 made that season.
That is absolutely gorgeous. Football league badges. Wow.
Yeah. So
what are you going to do, Jackie? You're just going to build out your? Are you just going to build and build your collection? What's the general plan? Is there a shirt that you're after that you've not got?
No, not really. To be honest, I'm kind of happy with what I've got now. I don't want to. I've got a great shirt from you as well, which is in the loft somewhere, and I'm going to keep a handful really now, and then just that's it.
Right, pass them down to the family.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's brilliant. Okay, so back to 1991.
Yeah.
So we're progressing all right. We're doing okay. Our manager leaves, typical City, and we decide to appoint Peter Reid. And actually, we don't have that bad a start to Peter Reid's tenure in terms of decent result. I think it was Luton and then Liverpool as well.
Yeah, that's right. Is that the game at Anfield where it said we were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And then it was 2-1. It's Liverpool with about 1 minute to go.
Yeah.
And then we managed to equalise. Quinn equalised in the last minute of the game.
With that header. Yeah. Header from the corner. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Which we never ever got anything from Anfield. And almost up until recently didn't. So that's incredible. So it had a good start. But generally, what do you think the mood of the fans was when we had this player manager who'd never managed before?
It was quite mixed. I think it was a mixed bag of. I think a lot of City fans they liked Reid because he was kind of a no nonsense guy, and a lot of City fans would just be I think some City fans would be happy with the fact that the players were grafting. It didn't necessarily have to be brilliant football. It was just if they were putting in a shift, then the fans were happy. Whereas I quite liked a bit more of the football. But yeah, I mean Reid, he looked like from when he took over to the end of that season, it was promising, really.
Yeah, pretty good. So, I mean, the rest of the season, we had a bit of a sticky Christmas, and then we had the FA Cup. So, who can forget that absolute shambles at Notts County? Do you remember? And I think we were on Match of the Day as well, weren't we? Which, back then, again, for younger listeners, you didn't really get that much live TV because this was before the Premier League. So, you had Match of the Day, and we lost 1-0 at Notts County.
Yeah, I think we hit the bar about 10 times. Something. The keeper had the best game ever. It always seemed to be the way. I remember whenever we were on TV, most of the time, we'd always lose, or it'd be a poor result. That's just the City way, wasn't it?
It was, and I remember at the time, because we'd had a good side, because we'd bought quite well, because we'd had such a good manager in Kendall, and it appeared to be going all right with Peter Reid. Everyone thought, oh well, we're going to go on a cup run. We'll definitely go on a cup run. We were already out of the League Cup. I think we're already out of what was the Zenith Data full members, whatever it was.
That's right.
And then to go to Notts County and just fuck it up was an absolute nightmare. But we went on another unbeaten run. But
I think things were just starting to, because Reid didn't like Hendry. He admits it in his book.
Yeah.
So he was playing Hendry as much, I think, towards the back end. And then Allen, Clive Allen got frozen out. So that, there's a couple of players which, which I think they really could have made a difference to us if they'd have been, kind of a bit more in the mix. And that's when I started to, kind of have my doubts about Reed a bit. And if you're falling out with players and, then it's not great, is it?
No, and I think it was more around he was seen to have his favourites. He was clearly seen to have his favourites. But you're right, I've read his book. And in it, he said from his whole managerial career, he can't think of too many things he'd go back and change. But one of the things was he would never sell Colin Hendry to Blackburn Rovers. It was his biggest mistake. And I think at least he's admitted it and he's put it in a book. So he must be very much on his mind. Because Colin Hendry, was absolutely fantastic for us and would have literally run through brick walls. But what he went on to achieve at Blackburn Rovers just shows you he was incredible. He was brilliant for us.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he was one of my heroes, really. So Hendry, David White and Coton, that season, they were my big heroes. So obviously when players don't start playing or, you hear whispers that they're falling out, it's, when you're a kid, it's kind of, it's kind of upsetting, really.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, I know loads of people from that era whose heroes David White. And when you see him sometimes walking around Main Road, I was at the Salford game Main Road, the Etihad, and I saw him and Paul Lake were walking through some of the lounges, and I just thought, even he's probably no idea what a hero he is. Like the kids these days, their hero is Ryan Cherky and Kevin De Bruyne as well. But actually, he was our Kevin De Bruyne, wasn't he, David White?
He was. I remember in the, if I was playing football in the park. In fact, I got that maroon kit for my 10th birthday in '91. The full kit, shirt, shorts, socks.
Oh, amazing!
I remember going to the park with my dad, and I was always David White. When you're running down, David White. So
and that season he was fantastic. And that season, and then going into the following season, he was absolutely electric. And we'll come to probably his best ever game for us in a bit towards the end of that season, which happened to be on my 18th birthday, believe it or not. So as we're talking, we went on that long unbeaten run. Clearly, Peter Reid got his feet under the table. He's doing well. And actually, I think at that point he realised I can't do both things. I can't play and manager. So, and if I do, I'm going to have to bring in a bit of support. So we brought in Sam Ellis. And I remember at the time he was quite a divisive figure because he was very long ball Sam. He was seen as a bit of not a bully, but the bullying type of person. And you talked before about playing style. Very much with Sam Ellis, it was very much about route one and getting there. Sometimes it wasn't that great to watch, was it?
No, it wasn't. And you could tell the players didn't like him, or a lot of the players didn't. And I think Roy Bailey, who was the physio, I follow him. He kind of very openly calls him a bully. So obviously, it wasn't great. Yeah, it wasn't a great character to tell around, I don't think.
And that was one of the rumours at the time. That fast forward a season and a half when Reid was sacked when we brought in that random guy, John Maddox.
Yeah, that's strange.
Apparently, the story goes is that they loved Peter Reid and everybody around the club loved Peter Reid, but they knew that his assistant may or may not have been having a little bit of a toxic impact on the rest of the squad. And it was actually, they asked Peter Reid if he'd get rid of Sam Ellis and he said no. And that was what led to his downfall.
Right.
So he died on his sword with Sam Ellis. Yeah, absolutely. So towards the end of the season, one of my favourite ever away games that I went to, I remember going with my brother and my brother-in-law, was Palace away, which was absolutely amazing. And we played in all white. So we played in that kit that's over your left shoulder, which was just beautiful. But I think we wore the white shorts and the dark socks. We looked incredible. And we absolutely blew them away. And by the way, at this point, Palace were a really good side and actually finished above us in the league that season. Do you know what's interesting about that game, other than the goal scorer?
Quinn scored a hat-trick.
He scored a hat-trick. Yeah. What's interesting about the hat-trick?
They weren't with his head.
No, close. It was a perfect hat-trick. It was left foot, right foot and a header.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal. Wow. If you see the goals on YouTube, honestly,
brilliant goals.
Search them out, people. They are unbelievable goals from Niall Quinn, who was, and he was unplayable at times, wasn't he, Niall Quinn, especially with David White alongside him.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that was the thing with City then, that we could go to Palace, beat them, and yet we might lose to Southampton or something at home the next game. It was that consistency wasn't there. Like the season after when, we beat Leeds, who were the eventual champions, 4-0, and then we might go and lose to Norwich or something. It was,
typical. Just when you wanted us to get beat by Leeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we went and absolutely thrashed him. Just cutting off from the season a bit. Obviously, as Per said in your intro, you have been the drummer with one of the most famous musicians in the world, but certainly in Mancunian folklore, the Johnny Marr. So that's been about 14 years now. And obviously, you're in your own band in Haven, and you've been in a couple of other bands as well. Tell me a little about what it's like being in a band with Johnny Marr, because let's face it, once people have heard that intro, they'll be dying to know what's he like, what's it like, and how is life being a drummer in a band?
It's great. He's, Johnny's one of those guys that it's literally just like being with your friend. It's like when your kids, you start a band. That's how it feels with Johnny. Still, he's still got that enthusiasm now and that love for music. So it just feels like, you're with your mates. You're going on stage with your mates, you're rehearsing, with your mates. You're just kind of hanging out together. It's great. And obviously he writes some amazing music and he's an amazing guitarist. So
brilliant. And he's a big Blue himself?
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've been to a few games together, with Johnny. I've been, lucky to go into the chairman's lounge with Johnny a few times. Also, we've just gone kind of a normal. I was going to say normal seats, but regular seats. Regular seats. And he's a huge Blue.
That's
he
brilliant.
Has been. Yeah, it's great.
That's good. And there's you've got another member of your band who's also Blue. Am I right?
Yeah. So Ewan, the bass player, he's a massive Blue now, but he's from Cornwall. So, but he was in Haven with me. So back in the early 2000s, obviously he used to. We used to go to games together. He just decided to become a Blue. So he's now seen and he's lived through our best period. And
he's our lucky omen.
Well, I know that's
Since he came on the scene, we've been winning a lot. Brilliant. And did he decide to, or was he sort of nudged into it by his boss and his colleague?
No, I think he just decided to, really. I think because a lot of where we lived in. So Heaton Moor, so we didn't Heaton Moor, and a lot of our friends there were all, we're kind of all Blues, so it just
brilliant,
made sense for you to be a Blue as well.
Fantastic. All right, brilliant. That's good stuff. And final question for me on your music: how did you become a drummer? So you were at school. I'm assuming you went to college or something, and then what made you think, that's what I want to do?
Very, very simply, my dad. He was a drummer. So,
oh, really? All right, okay.
Yeah, so there was always a drum kit around, not all the time, but basically my dad used to play in clubs on a Sunday, and every now and again on a Sunday, he'd bring the drums home, and I remember being really excited, and I can still smell them now, because this is in the days of smoke, so he used to play in the clubs, and he'd bring these drums back, and he used to reek of smoke, they used to stink the house out, but I was just so excited, about having the drums around. It was absolutely brilliant.
That's absolutely fantastic.
So then, because there's a drum kit around, that's how I got started, basically.
Right.
That's about 9 years old.
And then when did you join your first band? Was it like a school band or so, a college band or something?
Yeah, kind of school bands all the way through school, really. And then actually I played with the teachers. The teachers kind of got wind that I was a drummer. So when I was 14, I think it was like year 9 or something, or I can't remember the years, but year 9, the teachers were doing like a charity concert. They were playing in a band. They got me to drum with them, so I kind of got in with the teachers, as well. It's kind of handy,
Yeah,
your homework's like something, or you can't do your homework.
You're like, do you want me to play drums or not?
Yeah,
right, okay. Brilliant.
Exactly.
Brilliant. And was it early on that you joined Haven, or did you had loads of little bands first before you joined Haven?
Yeah, I'd had quite a few bands before that. But then Haven was about 2001 when I was about 18 when I joined Haven, and obviously they had a record deal. They were signed to Virgin, so I just walked straight into this. I walked straight into the band that we already signed.
Right, okay.
That's great. Yeah.
And then you met Johnny because is that right? He was your producer on one of your albums. Is that right?
On the first, on both actually. The first album,
right?
we did it his studio, at his house. And then he was also the producer on the second album as well.
All right, and that was it. And then the invite came, and your life's never quite been the same since.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I'd done other jobs. I'd come out of Haven, and then I basically got into IT just by my because I like IT stuff. I did a bit of research online of IT stuff, and I got this job in IT, and it was kind of a normal 9-to-5 job. And then when Johnny came calling, I was like, well, I've got a normal job now. You know, what do I do? And it was actually Kristen, my wife, said, you must be fucking mad, Jack. Johnny Marr's actually, join the band. You've got to do it. So,
oh, brilliant. Yeah. And she's right, by the way, because it's Johnny Marr.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think you just get used to, things, don't you? And I've been doing it, been out of music for so long at that point.
Ah, right, okay.
It was like, well, do you go back to that kind of thing, no routine and all that kind of thing? But, obviously I made the right move.
Brilliant. Good stuff. So let's get back to 35 years ago. So we're out the cup, surprise, surprise, but we are on a decent run in the league. That Palace game was incredible. Then a couple of brilliant wins again, Forest and Leeds. Yeah, really strong wins because again, Forest and Leeds at this time were really top sides. And then comes one of the most random games that I actually was a guest at Son City TV covering this game, covering the documentary for this game about a year ago when we played Derby County at home.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your recollections from that.
Yeah, well, that was one that I was at with my dad, obviously. And I remember that very clearly. So Derby basically had to win to have a chance of staying up.
That's right,
we were 1-0 up, and then Dean Saunders got clean through on goal, and then Tony Coton brought him down. And I think there was new rules implemented that season, which meant that referees could send goalkeepers off if
professional foul,
yeah. And then also back in that time, you didn't have a substitute goalkeeper, so Tony Coton basically brought Saunders down. He got sent off. He then got so angry that he threw his gloves at the ref.
I was hoping you'd mention that. I was hoping you'd mention that because it was brilliant, wasn't it? It was brilliant because he took his shirt off, took his gloves off, and threw them at the referee. I mean,
we'd get away with that now.
No, it'd be a 10-match, man.
Yeah, but it was fantastic. One of them missed. One of them hit the ref on the neck or something. And I remember thinking, God, what a hero, Coton. And then obviously the win had to decide who was going to go in goal. I'm sure Harper might have taken the shirt at first, maybe, but then Quinn stepped up and said, "I'm going to be in goal," basically. So we
weren't holding out much hope, were we?
No. So I think that is it. That is the actual shirt that he wore that day.
You joke? That is the actual shirt from the set.
Yeah, because it was given. It was given to a fan after that game by Tony Coton. Gave it to a fan after the game. So then, so Quinn went in goal and he managed to save the penalty, which is just unbelievable. And it was a great save as well.
Unbelievable. And do you know what? Do you know what always sticks in my mind is that he tipped that round the post. Yeah. And from the resulting corner, he came out, bundled through everyone and caught it. Yeah. And I know he's massive, but he's not a goalie. Yeah, that was equally as impressive for me. It was phenomenal. Yeah. And then what happened in the rest of the game?
So then we went on to win. We won 2-1. Yeah. And obviously when Quinn was in goal, I was really nervous. I thought we're gonna, they're gonna beat us here now. But it was actually great. We won 2-1, and then that was Derby gone, basically. From the first division.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only team we relegated that season, as we'll go on to talk about on the last day of the season, which was a phenomenal game because it is still, without doubt, the best away support I've ever seen at a City home game. It was incredible, but no spoilers, we'll come to that. So that was very, very random. Interesting fact about that, Dean Saunders missed a penalty. Yeah. Do you know what's interesting about Dean Saunders missing penalties against City?
Yeah, he missed one the following season.
He did, 4.
He played for Liverpool, so that was like the first home game.
That was the following season. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realise is he actually missed a 3rd penalty against us. Really? He's the only player in English football history to miss three consecutive penalties against the same team for 3 different clubs. It was Aston Villa at home against us, and it was 0-0, and he missed a penalty. So he's missed 3 on the bars, all within about 3 years. I know. Well, I am a bit of a City geek, but it's my favourite fact. And I'm actually, as much as he's a bit of a nose on the radio, that's why he's one of my favourite other players, Dean Saunders. And he nearly joined us as well, but we bottled out. Surprise, surprise! We bottled out signing him. Yeah, brilliant. So we moved from the Derby game to one of my all-time favourite games, not just of that season, but pre-takeover. It was phenomenal. We went to Villa Park on my 18th birthday, and tell us all about it.
Well, it was one of those, games that I remember, for various reasons. One of them was the white kit. I remember, just how good it looked on the players. It was a lot bit. That's shrunk a lot now because it's been washed so many times. But it was this big, lovely, big, shiny white shirt. I remember watching that as a kid, thinking, wow, this kit is unbelievable. But basically, David White scored 4 goals. We won the game 5-1, but it was one of the best performances from one player I'd seen, really. And it was just unheard of, to go away from home and to win 5-1. It was just unbelievable, amazing.
It was incredible. Yeah, it was. We were unplayable, and it was that link up again between Quinn and White was superb because we weren't frightened of playing it long. We would use Quinny, but David White against Paul McGrath, who I think I'm right in saying won Player of the Year. That's very few centre halves won Player of the Year.
Yeah.
David White absolutely destroyed him.
He did. I mean, to be honest, it could have been a lot more. And also Villa's goal, that's a penalty which actually wasn't even handball. It hit his chin. I think it hit Steve Redmond's
Spoken
chin.
like a true City fan, Jack.
Yeah, well, it's true.
We won 5-1. We won 5-1. And you're still not happy with the referee.
well, it's when you look at the replay, I think it hit him on his chin, but the ref thought it was his hand. And anyway, so
yeah, because they had some good players. Because they had David Platt, who again that post Italian 90, Paul McGrath. I think Cascarino was in that team, and he was at the top of his game as well. And we absolutely destroyed him. But that night was perfect for everything. It was a night match under the lights. We wore light blue shorts.
Yeah,
wore light blue shorts. We just looked mint.
Shorts. So those shorts we wore them against United the season before that, with the Ian Brightwell goal. And if you look, they haven't got a City badge on. They're just kind of generic
Umbro issue. Of those 4 goals that he scored that night, so we had the flick on from Quinn, which was the lob.
Yeah.
Then we had the top corner one.
Yeah.
Then we had the
far post.
Yeah, the cutting in where he cut it in. I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, last goal was where he kind of outside of area near post. Spink.
That's right.
Spink
yeah. What was your favourite goal from that night?
I think it's the lob.
Yeah,
the lob.
Lob was phenomenal.
The first one, that wasn't it?
Yeah. And the best thing about the old times, we got back and I went out to Friday's nightclub in Didsbury because it was me 18.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say Friday for some reason. Yeah.
Went out to Friday's nightclub, right? And I got back in at God knows what time, and my mum had taped Granada Soccer Night. I mean,
oh yeah, brilliant! God, Granada Soccer Night.
I mean,
do you know what's
Carlsberg don't do 18th, but that was perfect.
I was thinking about that the other day. Granada Soccer Night. I wonder why they chose to call it Soccer Night rather than Football Night.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it's an American,
No, I know.
Soccer. But anyway, it's funny. I was reading a book with Clem, my son, the other day, and it said soccer in it. I thought, oh. And then, that just reminded me of it.
Soccer Night. And with the theme tune was from, who would they called, that Manchester band?
Yeah. It was Northside.
Northside, that's it.
Yeah. That's right.
I forget which song it was. It might have been Shall We Take a Trip?
Yeah, it was.
Was it that?
Down memory lane. Yeah, is that
brilliant? Fantastic. Yeah, good job you're a drummer and not a singer, Jack.
Yeah.
So, and then we go to United and we're full of beans and we lose. Now, I remember I managed to get a ticket for the Stretford End, sadly, with me and my brother in that game. Do you remember the game and the goal and how we performed?
I just remember the goal, going in, and it was an own goal, and that was it. It sounded like a bit of a nothing game, really. I don't know if you remember
It was. I think both teams were sort of vying against each other to finish the highest because I think we were 5th, they were 6th.
That's right.
And they wanted to try and beat us, and they were getting near us. I think that they'd not been on a good run, but could still finish above us, and that was their aim, really. Which, when you think about how the mighty had fallen to wanting to finish above us, my biggest memory from that's 2 big memories from that game was we were in the Stretford end, and my brother, who's 10 years older than me, spent the entire day saying, "Whatever you do, do not celebrate when we score." I said, "Well, there's no chance of that, or make it out that in any way that you're a City fan." And the minute that goal went in, he went on a massive rant about how badly we defended, and we had to. And of course, the Stretford end was all standing, so we just had to dip and leg it to the other side of the Stretford end, so nobody battered us. That was the first thing. Jesus. And then the second thing is Giggs. I remember because it was an own goal, Colin Hendry own goal, but Giggs tried to claim it, and I remember on the telly that night, Colin Hendry was that bitter towards United, and he spoke for all of us, where he said, "Giggs isn't having that goal. I'm claiming it as an own goal." And he was forever in our hearts after that. That is as bitter and burnt as you can get.
That's right. They also asked him to say, "Do you?" Because I think United were in Europe that week.
Cup Winners' Cup final. Yeah, that's right.
They said to him, "Have you got a message? Do you want to send them? Do you want to send them your best wishes?" And he just said, "No comment. No comment."
Brilliant.
Absolutely
brilliant. Brilliant. He still loves us to this day, Colin Hendry. I love him. That's brilliant.
Great,
So a derby loss, but we'd actually had a really great end to the season, and that ended fittingly with what essentially wasn't a massively important game for us, but was huge for our opponents. So last game of the season, Sunderland at home. So I take it you were there.
Yeah, I was. And the biggest thing I remember was we were in the main stand as usual. I remember how many Sunderland fans that there were around us. Obviously they'd absolutely packed out the away end.
Yeah.
But they were everywhere that day, absolutely everywhere. And obviously when they went 2-1 up. Was it the first goal, Marco Gabbiadini? His header. It was an absolute fantastic goal.
I think that was at the Platt Lane as well, and it just went bang. Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And then they had another few chances, and I just remember so many Sunderland fans near us. I mean, I was, at one point I was getting a bit scared. I was only, probably 10 years old, and a few fights and arguments started to break out. It was all getting a bit tetchy.
But again, I think it was that double act again. So I think David White scored again, and he carried his form into that following season as well. But that I'll never forget the noise when that Gabbiadini header went in, and there was they had all the Platt Lane, windy corner, which was between the Platt Lane and the Kippax, and then they had the other corner with the main stand, and then there was tons where. Do you remember if you looked at the main stand, and there was that like the police. Control centre on the right hand side. They had all that strip as well, and then loads in the north stand as well. So it was just. Obviously, City fans would probably sell the tickets for God knows how much, but it was a phenomenal game. Absolutely brilliant game.
It was a lovely day. Absolutely bright sunshine. Absolutely lovely day. It was. Brilliant. I mean, it was a fantastic game. It was brilliant.
So we finished it brilliantly. So overall, how would you rate that season? We finished 5th.
Well,
which was pretty good for City.
Yeah. For me, it felt like the start of something, but then obviously, because Kendall left, that kind of put a bit of a dampener on it. So even though, I thought we'd finished 5th, but then in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, what could it have been like if we'd have kept Kendall? And I think that just, it kind of, bit of a, even though we'd done well, we finished 5th, it was just a bit of a sad feeling as well, that we'd lost.
Of what could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've had that feeling a few times. But I suppose, like you say, we finished 14th the season before. We were, the season before Easter at Villa away, I thought we were going down. And then we managed to pull clear. So to finish 5th, but the biggest thing for us, Berts, was to finish above United. We finished above United by, I think, 3 points, as well. Yeah. So I've got a bit of a quiz question before you go.
Okay.
So we finished 5th that season. Try and tell me the teams who finished above us that season.
Liverpool.
So who were the champions that season in 91?
Arsenal, I think.
Correct.
And then Liverpool, Villa.
Nope.
So
Arsenal finished top on 83. Liverpool second on 76.
And not Villa. Was it Spurs?
No, random team I mentioned before.
Palace.
Palace finished third, Steve Coppell.
Right.
So they finished on 69. Who were fourth? So this was a sign of things to come.
Oh, Leeds.
Leeds. Yeah, they finished fourth on 64. So we actually could have finished fourth if we'd not lost that United game. Yeah.
Well, also we had that, like you mentioned it earlier. We had a really bad patch. I think before Christmas, we could have been, maybe third or fourth. And at that point, there was no Europe, was there? Still.
The what? So we've just been allowed in. So that's because United were in the Cup Winners' Cup. So we've just been allowed in. So Liverpool finished. They qualified for the European Cup, and then second got you a UEFA Cup place, which is Europa League now for you younger listeners.
Wasn't it?
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And then it was only after that in the Premier League that they started expanding it. So we finished. So we were never quite pushing for Europe in the end.
Yeah.
But to finish fifth, 3 points ahead of United was.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the only thing we could, we had to shout about, but that was kind of important, for us guys.
Yeah. And who was your player of the season that year? Who's your favourite player of that season?
I think it's probably David White.
Yeah.
David White. And someone I've not mentioned actually is Mark Ward. He was a brilliant player, Wardy.
Fantastic. Yeah, playing on the left, cutting in, hitting it top corner. Yeah. Jack Mitchell, thank you very much for being a guest on Maybe in Another Generation. I'm really appreciative of it. Thank you for talking us through your shirts. And I will no doubt see you soon for a cup of tea and a catch-up.
Lovely. All right, mate.
Take it easy. Nice. Cheers, Jack. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.